We can all agree that Hawaiian roller coaster ride goes incredibly hard, right? What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today, I've got my review of Lilo and Stitch, the live-action remake. Hits theaters this Friday, and I was able to see the movie early, so these are going to be my honest thoughts. Before I get into this review, though, be sure to hit that like button. Comment your thoughts on the movie down below if you've seen it as of watching this video, as well as your predictions and or expectations if you have not yet watched it. And of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. I mean, quite a bit. So as I always do with reviews, I like to give you my backstory, my relationship to the IP, or where I'm coming from, and in this case, that would be my connection to the original Lilo and Stitch film. Now, it's worth noting, I actually didn't grow up on this movie. Like, it was probably on TV at times, and I might have even watched it as a wee lad, but I had no recollection of this movie until I went back and rewatched it in 2023, so much so that I basically marked that down as a first-time viewing, and I thought it was solid. I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5, but I went back and rewatched it the day of watching this live-action remake, so yesterday for me, and it actually went up in score for me. It's a delightful Disney film that has a very sweet message about family, some genuinely funny moments, and it's just like a great heartfelt watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is totally understandable that someone could have this as their favorite Disney movie. Again, I didn't grow up with it. I don't have that nostalgic attachment to it. But if I were to have grown up with this film, I, might have had it in my top 10 favorite Disney movies. So I totally respect that movie, and I get why people love it so much. In fact, Stitch has become an icon to a whole generation of people who grew up, again, loving that original. So we go into this live-action remake, and Disney's been very hit or miss with their live-action remakes. So coming into this movie, I just really had no expectations, because I was like, we'll see if it can match the original. I doubt it will. And I walk out and I go, it's definitely made some changes for the worse, in my opinion, and it wasn't the most memorable. But that's not to say it doesn't have its moments, all right? I'm going to start with the pros for Lilo and Stitch. The first being the design of Stitch himself. Like I said earlier, Stitch is the face of this movie and genuinely might just be the representative of Disney to many kids. Like, a ton of people, when they think Disney, they think Stitch. This character has become iconic over the years, and they knew that. The marketing push was centered around Stitch for months before we even got our first footage from the movie, and so Disney knew they had to nail the character design, and that, without a doubt, is one of the biggest standouts of the movie. The character of Stitch has some great CGI. They made him look extra cute and fluffy and real lovable, and so you can automatically just feel a soft spot in your heart when you see this character on screen, because you're like, this is basically just the same version of the cartoon, except looks hyper realistic in a way. Still CGI, but a lot more realistic. And so, this is going to sell because the design is real. Kids are going to want to go see Stitch on the big screen. And this movie is going to introduce Lilo and Stitch to a whole new generation of kids. Like, I get it. I totally understand why they made this movie. It's got some cute moments, undeniably. Stitch in particular has those moments where you're going to hear the audience all at the same time go, "Aww." Like, you know what you're getting into with that. And Disney knew what they were doing. It's very much the Grogu or Baby Yoda effect, where you've got this cute, cuddly character in a movie, and it's gonna sell toys, it's gonna sell tickets. That's the main reasoning behind it all, and that is gonna work here as well. The movie also, as outside of Stitch, does have a fairly strong sense of family. And you would hope, right? Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. That's a big message in the original, and they have it here. It doesn't hit as hard, in my opinion, but there's a family dynamic, and Stitch is at the center of it all. He is the heart of this movie. Also, the young actress who plays Lilo has her moments with Stitch, and they both make for an adorable duo that, like I said, will pull on the heartstrings. There's no denying that. However, this is a Disney live-action remake. It is riddled with issues. There are a lot of cons I have. It is a far from perfect movie. I would say one of my biggest gripes with this movie is the fact that they made some fairly significant changes to character moments and character motivations that actually took away from the overall conflict of this story. Like, characters' roles are changed entirely when compared to the original, and that was a bummer, because to me, like I said, it kind of lessened the overall stakes of the movie, which consequently made for a film that was kind of bland and dull. You never really felt a sense of danger. There wasn't a lot of peril. You're just kind of going through the motions in a fairly by-the-numbers remake where the sense of danger is kind of absent, whereas in the first film, the original, there were moments where you really were like on the edge of your seat, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? In this case, they took away from a lot of the conflict. For example, Gantu's not even in this movie. He's kind of the main villain of the original film, and his role is kind of given to another character in a sense, but that character's absence was felt, in my opinion, because he ends up becoming sort of the main antagonist of the movie in a way, right? The original. Well, here that's kind of missing. And so there's not as much of a villainous threat or a sense of, oh, Stitch could actually get taken from us. That was missing for a lot of this movie. Beloved characters from the original that appear in this film are tweaked as well, like Pleakley and Jumba. I won't say how, but there's a decision that's made that was clearly done to save money. There's like this new way these characters are presented in the film that allows for the movie to get away with not having to CGI their characters as in-depth or as much. And that was very obvious in my opinion. But some of the tweaks that this Lilo and Stitch remake makes, specifically with regard to like scene structure, might seem minimal in the moment, but if you take a step back and look at the big picture, they actually take away from character development and real payoff that's there in the first film. For example, the character Nani, Lilo's older sister, in the original film is very adverse to Stitch. Like, Nani clearly wants nothing to do with Stitch. And in the first movie, the original, Stitch and his presence like upends their life, and there's this ongoing plot line of like, oh my gosh, like, we got to get rid of Stitch. He's bad for us. Bad things happen when he shows up. In this movie, that's not as felt, in my opinion, especially because Nani isn't as like anti-Stitch. I felt like they just watered down that whole relationship, which was weird. I mean, even Agent Cobra Bubbles is kind of botched in this movie. The whole social worker plotline switched up, and he feels like he's just in this movie, in my opinion, because he is an iconic character from the original, and they're like, well, we gotta throw him a bone. We gotta include him. We'll switch up his role a little bit, but I was just kind of taken aback by that decision as well. Now, I'm not someone who wants a shot-for-shot remake when I go see a live-action remake. If they're gonna do these, and we live in a world where we have to have them, you might as well make some changes, but make changes for the better. Tweak the story, make it more emotional, add more depth. I think the changes they made here were not very beneficial. Major changes were made that took away from actual stakes, because in the first movie, there's kind of a clear threat by the time the third act rolls around. There's a sense of danger in this movie. I never really felt that, and so again, the word dull comes to mind because you kind of know where we're headed, and there's not an actual moment of like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen to them? Some of the iconic line deliveries didn't hit the same. There's one exchange in particular that's really iconic from the original movie in the third act, and I thought that the way they delivered that line was like, that's it. I felt like they were obligated to include that line here as well. It just didn't have as much of an emotional oomph like it does in the original. Now, initially, this movie was going straight to Disney+. Then they, at some point along the line, decided to put it in theaters, and unfortunately, you can tell from the VFX work outside of Stitch to just the overall production quality, it feels like a straight-to-streaming movie. That's just how I feel. I feel strongly that this movie does feel like something that was pretty much going to Disney+. They pulled it and said, hey, let's put it in theaters. Did the same thing with Moana 2. That was a TV show for Disney Plus initially, and then they condensed it into like this movie. It made $1 billion, and this movie could very well go on to do the same, but that doesn't mean that it's quality. Again, I'm not some diehard fan of the original Lilo and Stitch, but having watched that film right before going into this one, the comparisons are gonna be there. It's a remake. You gotta compare it to the original, and they made changes, not for the better. I think it actually took away from the overall stakes and conflict of the movie. I won't say it assassinated characters or anything like that, but definitely watered them down a little bit. There's undeniably still some sweet family moments. Stitch is going to get some laughs from the audience and have people going, aw, but outside of that, does this movie provide much? Not really. It feels, to me, like a cash grab, and it's gonna work. I think this movie's gonna make a lot of money. Families are gonna eat this up, but at the end of the day, guys, if I'm putting Lilo and Stitch from 2002 next to this movie, 10 out of 10 times I'm watching the original. Like, if I get the Lilo and Stitch bug and I'm like, I want to watch Lilo and Stitch, I'm never gonna go to this over the original. This movie exists to try and make $1 billion, and it's probably going to. And I don't hate it. It's not offensively bad to me or anything, but it's just the definition of fine. Decent, I guess, you know, serviceable enough for one watch. I'll forget about it in about a week, because it just lacks the overall emotional impact of the first movie. Really just made some tweaks for the worse, in my opinion. Again, not to say this movie doesn't have a couple moments to shine, but without a doubt, it pales in comparison to the original. A movie that I don't even think is perfect. I know a lot of people do. I think it's a very fun Disney movie with a lot of sweet moments. As a remake, didn't do much for me. But those are just my honest thoughts on the Lilo and Stitch live action remake. Let me know yours down below, and of course, hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell to be notified for all my future videos, and let me know if you plan on seeing this one in theaters or not. That's gonna do it. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Until next time, see you guys later.